Hello and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is the Ukraine War news update, first part thereof for the 8th of August 2025. We'll start with the Ukrainian General Staff figures for the Russian losses for the day before. All the usual caveats apply. Just seeing if Tim White says anything worthy of note. No, let's just go to 1,040 personnel lost in the last 24 hours. That's about where we've seen it recently. 7 tanks and 7 AFBs is a slight uptick in those categories, although it's still below the daily averages. 7 tanks is a fairly useful number, though. 52 artillery systems is a useful number there, just over twice the daily average. So again, we see high numbers in artillery systems, vehicles and fuel tanks, 126. That's pretty decent, and personnel is all right. Otherwise, things are somewhat lower, as we expect, with the Russians using their unarmored vehicles to attack. Now, in terms of personnel, I don't have any Andrew Perpetual loss list yet today, but we have the news from Knoll reports that the Ukrainian military intelligence struck Russia's 90th Air Defence Brigade in Syrskyi. So this is where they struck an oil refinery as well. Krasnodar Krai this morning, that is this morning. RBC Ukraine sources report 2 explosions near the checkpoint killed at least 12 soldiers, wounded dozens more, and destroyed equipment. And there's some more detail on that here from Visioner, with some recourse to Russian statements on the socials. At least 12 Russian occupiers were eliminated. The main intelligence director of Ukraine attacked an air defense brigade in Krasnodar Krai. Sources reported that as a result of an operation by the main intelligence directorate, on the military's 90th anti-aircraft missile brigade in Syrskyi, that 12 people died. Specifically near the checkpoint, 2 explosions were heard, resulting in the elimination of 12 and dozens of occupiers wounded, equipment destroyed. So that equipment is likely to be air defense equipment. So that would be good news there for the Ukrainians. But yeah, you can go and survey the Russian statements and whatnot, if that's your thing. Right, I showed you a video from Primary Unit detailing a number of bits of kit that were taken out in the Crimea area, and said yesterday that the radar element of an S300, S400 system was targeted. But actually, if we excerpt this video to show the radar system, it's even better than that. Now, there was rumor sometime back of an S500 system. The idea that Russians only have one of these, the kind of newest of their air defense systems. This is, as you can see a Yenisei radar for the S500. They supposedly had an S500 that was moved down to Crimea, and it itself was attacked, and at least some elements of it were thought to have been destroyed. This is a radar system that is obviously, if that was previously true, then they didn't get at the radar system, and here it is getting targeted and taken out by a drone from the Primary Unit. So that is really good news for the Ukrainians. Max25 says, quoting Cyber Baroshno, in yesterday's video from the GUR, drone struck the latest 98L6 Yenisei radar, which is the standard radar for the S500 Prometheus. Yenisei radar is based on a multi-element jam-proof active phased array, which allows tracking hypersonic targets moving at altitudes of up to 120 kilometers. Altitude of 120 kilometers, moving at altitudes and up to 120 kilometers away, high altitudes, I would have thought, at speeds of up to 4,800 meters a second, 17,280 kilometers an hour, with the prospect of increasing it to 7,000 meters a second or 25,200 kilometers an hour. That is, the system actually allows interception of low orbit space targets. So maybe it is 120 kilometers in altitude. So this is a pretty impressive piece of kit that would have been taken out, one thinks, or at least damaged by that drone attack, detailed in the Primary Unit's video there. Good news. Now, Ukrainian ground drones launching FPV strike drones. It was just a matter of time, says Preston Stewart here, showing this video of these drones taking off from a UGV somewhere in Ukraine. We've seen this from USVs, unmanned surface vehicles on the sea, it's only, I guess, predictable that you would see these drones taking off from a UGV. And I wonder whether the UGV gets used as a repeater at all. It has an aerial there at the side, so maybe, I don't know, but that would make sense. Otherwise, you might as well just have them take off from where you are at. But anyway, that's a new video out. Right, we'll go on to distance strikes. So Russia launched 108 drones, no missiles last night. Are they ramping up for strikes tonight? Some are saying that there could be a really big strike tonight because this is the D-Day of tariffs. But I don't know. 108 drones, no missiles, 82%, sorry, 76%, 82 of them were intercepted by Ukraine's air defense. Among the machines flying, 4 were jet drones, of which 3 were shot down. So they actually differentiate here 3 jet drones taken out by the air defenses there. 10 places were hit and 8 more locations affected by falling debris. We have I could detail some sort of new jet interceptor drones, but I'll do that in a military aid video that I'll hopefully get out today. Ukraine's defense forces have claimed now that they've shot down 50,000 Russian operational tactical drones to date, according to Stratcom. That is an insane number of big explosive warheads taken out of the sky. Some of them will be decoys, of course. Ukraine's Air Force has released footage of combat operations against enemy Shahed drones in Odessa region. Mobile fire teams from the Odessa Air Defence Brigade of Air Command South shot down 12 drones, according to the report. So this is really good news that they're still able to get drones with your kind of low-tech air defence teams, mobile fire teams. And judging by some of this footage, there is the use of kind of machine guns and whatnot to take them out. But yeah, there could be other that I don't know if that was an air defense missile. So mobile teams you often think are going to be, yeah, here you go, sort of machine gun team taking out drones, being able to react quickly. But it could be that you have sort of man pads as well. Yeah, there you go. So there's a missile. There are 2 drones in that image, actually. So it shows you what they have to deal with, multiple drones at any one time. But yeah, so that's good news for that grouping in the Odessa area, because Odessa is under so much threat from drones all the time. So it's good to see that the mobile air defense teams are still being utilized efficiently. Ukraine shoots down 2 new Russian Shahed type drones. These 2 new drones were shot down by the Ukrainian forces this week, but annoyingly, they were packed with Chinese technology, including flight controllers, navigation systems, and I'm not sure what they're going on to say there. A single company from a single company. So a single Chinese company is making a lot of components for these Shahed drones or Shahed type drones, 2 new ones. So it really does look like China is helping Russia quite a bit behind the scenes at the moment. Well, I say behind the scenes, it's becoming more and more overt. Here we have fragments from a jet engine from a Grand 3 drone, and its OFZBCH 50 warhead. They were found. The engines, according to the report, are commercially available Chinese models. So again, Chinese components being found liberally amongst Russian munitions and weapons. That is really frustrating. Now, Ukraine have possibly got a new tool to use against Shahed drones. Of course, there's going to be music and not just the sound of the plane. So here you have an agricultural turboprop plane being kitted out with R-73 air-to-air missiles, so they can take out Shahed drones. And why not? Why not use something you already have at your disposal? Ukrainian forces have modified a Polish Zlin Z137T agro turbo crop duster to carry short-range R-73 air-to-air missiles for shooting down reconnaissance and attack drones. Right, so what was the damage done last night? Early this morning came a very heavy drone swarm attack on Kiev, to be specific, commuter towns just outside the city. Now, if you saw Tim White's thread last night, there were quite a few explosions in Irpin, Bucha, those kind of areas of the city, or sort of very outskirts of the city, sort of north of the city. The main strikes were on Bucha with a 45-year-old man and a woman aged 80 suffering minor injuries. Authorities say 21 private houses were damaged. Tim White says, however, I do wonder if something more important was hit. The blasts were very large, and the pictures released have been few and show relatively minor damage to houses, cars, and buildings. The mayor of Bucha shot only a single video in one location. No comment from Russia. So it could be that the Russians were targeting something, I don't know, air defense systems or something much more on the outskirts of Kiev, possibly with some success. 2 people needed treatment in Kharkiv as well. That was targeted. Civilian enterprise was struck. Drone hit a 4-story office building in the Syrskyi district. What else do we have? Sumy was also struck. And yeah, usual attacks on Dnipropetrovsk. Odessa as well also came under heavy attack last night, but air defense here seems to have been quite good. We've already seen that video of 12. I don't know when they were all taken out, but 12 drones being taken out in Odessa area. Local council says a sewage pumping station was damaged and falling debris caused grass fires, while a gas station security guard was injured by flying glass. Then we're on to Ukraine. Now it seems that they had some success at Millerovo Air Base, so it's strongly suspected that Ukraine hit the Russian air base at Millerovo in Rostov Oblast. Heavy smoke can still be seen there this morning, so oil storage could have been hit at the base. Russia's official version is a gasoline tanker caught fire. Various photos coming out from Millerovo. But firms data suggests it's probably a bit more serious than the Russians might say. The city of Millerovo in Russia's Rostov region came under attack overnight, with NASA satellite data showing fires in the area near but not at the airfield. That's quite often the case. They go for infrastructure concerned with the base, whether it be fuel or munitions. But you can see 2 areas coming under attack last night. So Millerovo might well have taken one there for the team, for Team Russia. At this moment, said Visioner 5 hours ago. So this would be earlier this morning, Ukraine time. I don't know, sort of maybe 7 in the morning Ukraine time. At this moment, Ukrainian drones are carrying out massive attacks on western and southern regions of Russia, as well as the Crimean Peninsula. Explosions can be heard in Sochi and Adler. So I haven't seen any details of this yet, but that was a claim from Visioner 5 hours ago. We have got a video here of massive strike hits the resort city of Sochi, so that was mentioned by Visioner there. Authorities urgently close the airport. People in swimsuits and trunks flee the beaches in panic, report Russian media. Well, this is our daily reality. Let the war be felt in Russia too, says Maria Drutska. Let's have a look at this video. So you've got air raid sirens going off and announcements for people to leave the beach. They're leaving in their trunks and swimming suits as drones are striking nearby. Distant explosion. I don't know if they see any drones in the sky. Anyway, you get the picture. We have seen similar images in previous years of, in fact, there was debris from a shot down drone, I think, flew into the water next to a beach that was full of holiday makers. There were rumors last night. I don't think anything came of them. I don't think they end up being true. But this is an example. Jimmy Rushton saying last night, rumblings on Russian Telegram about a spiderweb-style FPV attack in Saratov, with FPV drones apparently being launched from vehicles. Nothing confirmed as yet, although Russian channels are panicking. This is quite typical for Russian channels. They can really panic about storm shadows striking and this and that. Multiple Russian channels now claim FPV attacks in both Saratov and Rostov Oblast. Still no definitive confirmation as yet, but the panic is spreading. One Russian channel claims the car from which drone launches were made was a dark-colored Toyota on the basis of a truck or an SUV, a motorhome with a superstructure above the cabin, solar panels on the roof of the van. Very similar modus operandi to Operation Spiderweb. Reliable Ukrainian monitoring channel now reporting explosions and air defense operations in the Rostov-Saratov-Ryazan regions of the Russian Federation. Still awaiting any further confirmation of these events. This is 18 hours ago. It's possible a wave of mass panic has swept across Russian Telegram channels, which illustrates the psychological impact the SBU's FPV attacks have had. So I'm not sure that anything did come about from this, but maybe we'll find out. But it certainly caused panic, these spreading rumors amongst the Russian Telegram channels. Now, Ukraine Battle Map here says it's being reported but not confirmed that FPV drones flew out of these types of vehicles. It is midnight in Russia now. The reported attacks just started around 30 minutes ago. It will take time to get details on the specifics like damage and vehicles used and what occurred. What, if indeed anything? So you've got some kind of makeshift camper van style thing going on there, and out of that could have flown a bunch of drones, rather like Spiderweb, Operation Spiderweb initially, but it might also be a load of bunkum. So I guess we will or won't find out any further details of that. Now, to go to other bits and pieces, we're going to start with Sochi. Sochi is itself experiencing a powerful flood there at the moment. Goodness me. The weather has been really extreme around Europe and certainly around Russia. Just incredible images there coming from Sochi. Moving on, 2 Russian recruited miners detained for a deadly bombing in Ukraine. It's a real shame when they manage to successfully recruit young kids who then go on to do sort of terrorist activities, either through blackmail or through just simple temptation from financial gain. So they often have, either young people or vulnerable people, and yeah, just it's a real shame. I don't know that they would be particularly politically aligned to the Russians, but I don't know. Maybe they are. Um, but yes, and this was an attack in Shitomir earlier this week, where one man was killed and others seriously injured. So, these attacks do damage, and they are unsettling for local Ukrainians, no doubt. Now, uh, this is pretty horrible. You have an old man here. This is going back to Butcher, like the horrific stuff that happened in Butcher, where an old man was shot by Russians. This is new, previously unseen footage of war crimes. And if you still come across people who deny Butcher, it is clearly caught on camera. So much of this stuff. Here is a case of Russians killing a Ukrainian man and then robbing his body, executing him with a shot to the head, searching his body, taking his belongings, and looting a local store and eating stolen food on camera. According to the investigation, the killer is identified as Sergeant Vladimir Bruzanov, commander of the unit of the Russia's 234th Airborne Assault Regiment. There will be so much footage like this being collated, synthesized, and delivered, hopefully, to the ICC, so that these people can have their comeuppance. This was systematic, and this is what the Russians do, and people need to recognize this more. I've had arguments with people that don't seem to realize the sheer extent of the Russian war crimes that have been committed in Ukraine. Some of the children, talking about war crimes, some of the children listed on the website so the Kremlin has repeatedly shown off images of kidnapped children adapting to their new lives under Russian custody. Some of the children listed on the website are described as obedient and respectful towards adults, while others have labels stating physical development is age appropriate. So Russia's launched a catalogue of Ukrainian children up for adoption. This is digital child trafficking, and that's coming from the New York Post, that tabloid newspaper that is staunchly pro-Ukrainian, it seems. Romania suspects Russian sabotage behind Azeri, so Azerbaijani crude oil contamination, according to Romanian media. So the crude oil was mixed with organic chloride and transported through Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey, and could have seriously corroded infrastructure at uh, at those facilities. And I don't know whether it can corrode the pipes themselves. So the crude mixed with organic chloride, which was transported through Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey, threatened to seriously corrode infrastructure at OMV Petrom's Petrobrazi refinery, potentially triggering a national fuel crisis, G4 Media reported. And of course, you had a gas compressor station that was responsible for being part of the infrastructure for transporting Azerbaijani gas through to the Danube River Delta to Ukraine to onward for transshipment somewhere else. Um, and that strike that we saw in yesterday's report was potentially a shot across the Azerbaijani bow. Well, here we have sabotage of Azerbaijani crude oil. So the Russians really doing their best to ruin Azerbaijan's alternative options um, for hydrocarbons without having to go without having to rely on Russia. But Russia reportedly shifts oil exports to China after Trump's India tariffs. Barrels of Russia's Urals oil are now being offered at a discount to both state-owned and private Chinese refineries, according to Bloomberg. China's going to be loving that. Despite Trump's threat of tariffs, China will continue to buy oil from Russia and Iran, according to Chinese Foreign Ministry. Quote, China will always ensure its energy supply in a way that meets our national interests. China will resolutely defend its sovereignty, security, and interests. And then we hear from Indian Prime Minister. So this is on the back of those tariffs from Trump. Indian Prime Minister Modi said he had a good conversation with his friend Vladimir Putin and looks forward to welcoming him to India later this year. I'm going to read you Narendra Modi's uh, social media post here on Twitter. Had a very good and detailed conversation with my friend, President Putin. I thanked him for sharing the latest developments on Ukraine. We also reviewed the progress in our bilateral agenda and reaffirmed our commitment to further deepen the India Russia Special and Privileged Strategic Partnership. I look forward to hosting President Putin in India later this year. So, this is pushing India closer to Russia. And this is a problem with strong, robust sanctions and tariffs and activity against one element of BRICS will push them towards the other elements of BRICS in a more robust unity, I think. And that is one of the, unfortunately, one of the collateral implications for um, a punishing approach to BRICS countries. A new Pentagon memo, sadly, allows weapons intended for Ukraine to be rerouted into US stockpiles unless explicitly approved by President Trump. Despite Trump's public support for a NATO led funding plan, sources warn that aid could be frozen with his direct order. This is a real shame here. That's Euromaidan Press interpreting that. Yeah, we had heard previously of weapons being um, rerouted from Ukraine to the US post the Iran 12-day war, or whatever you want to call it, where the Americans were using up quite a few air defense missiles in Qatar and places, but then they rerouted a load of random weapons and put a stop to a load of random weapons that were due to go to Ukraine that the US wouldn't have particularly needed. So it was all a bit weird. And now we hear this, a very similar sort of scenario, uh, desperately annoying for the Ukrainians, as the US don't appear to have a consistent and coherent approach um, to supporting Ukraine. The US, says Nell Reports, has begun talks with Asian countries to replace Russian oil and gas with American supplies. Energy Secretary Chris Wright told Fox Business. He said the US is already redirecting energy to Europe and is discussing similar deals in Asia, although it's too early for talks with India. So the US wants to up, I guess, their production of hydrocarbons, make hay while the sun shines, provide the alternative to Russian hydrocarbons uh, for countries in Asia as well as Europe. Putin agreed, this is a Wall Street Journal, to meet Trump as a delaying tactic. The Kremlin may offer to keep part of the occupied territories in exchange for withdrawing from others. A refusal from Kyiv and Europe would let Putin blame Ukraine for prolonging the war and allowing Trump to shift responsibility onto it. And that's exactly what I said yesterday in my video about this topic, about negotiations. So the Wall Street Journal agreeing with that kind of approach. Trump administration sources revealed the White House is actively organizing a three-way presidential summit that could bring together the US, Ukraine, and Russia's presidents as early as next week. Uh, on the other hand, after Putin's talks with Witkoff, Moscow has begun exploring which territories it might relinquish or compromise on, according to RBC. But it seems, and a lot of people are talking about this morning, that the Trump administration is reportedly finalizing a peace proposal that would allow Russia to take over the entirety of the Donetsk region and force Ukraine to surrender the unoccupied portion. All territory currently occupied by Russia would remain under Russian control. It just does not sit well with me. According to Bloomberg, the deal would involve Russia taking over the entire Donbass and freezing the lines of contact elsewhere. The reported aim is to freeze the war and pave the way for a ceasefire and technical talks on a definitive peace settlement. So they would have to even give up even more land than the Russians already own. It's horrendous. It's not clear whether Russia would have to return any territory or hand over the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. The agreement would reportedly present Ukraine and Europe with take it or leave it ultimatum. I mean, it's just this again. It's condoning an aggressive nation invading another nation. You get given the land that you have forcibly occupied. I just yeah. Such an agreement would clearly be a disaster for Ukraine and represent an abject surrender by the US to Russia. Hundreds of thousands of people still live in the unoccupied portion of Donetsk region and would likely need to be evacuated. The agreement would also require Ukraine to hand over its heavily fortified defensive lines, much as Neville Chamberlain's Munich Agreement did to Czechoslovakia in 1938. It's like Sudetenland all over again. Russia's next invasion of Ukraine would be made far easier. The terms and plans of the accord are said to still be in flux and could still change. The agreement will be finalized when Trump and Putin meet next week. And that's what Putin have said. It just makes my blood boil. But yeah. Now, Zelenskyy has acknowledged that liberating occupied territories by armed force is no longer possible and diplomatic options should be pursued, says the Telegraph. This is why I've long said that Ukraine kind of wins or prevails in this war by economic means first and then military means thereafter. Ukraine would not sign the document that blocks its path to NATO membership or put a halt to donations of Western weapons by allies. We talked about that yesterday. Yes, talk that Trump abandons plans for a three-way talk with Putin and Zelenskyy. That's from the Telegraph. And then finally, we have General Syrskyi, the commander in chief for the Ukrainian armed forces, saying, quote, "The war must end in a way that benefits us. That means we must win and not retreat." According to the commander-in-chief, Ukraine must inflict such losses on the enemy that it is forced to end the war, not from a position of strength, but on Ukraine's terms. And that is a key. But if what the US is supposedly proposing is indeed true, and it's going to happen fairly imminently, then we're back to this situation where Ukraine is forced to agree to some horrendous proposals forced by both the US and Russia. And if they don't agree, then the failure of negotiations is Ukraine's fault, as the Americans would see it, and they hit Ukraine with the big stick, whilst never really hitting Russia with any stick at all. Really, really frustrating. Anyway, that's enough from me. Almost. Let me just remind you that we are doing a campaign at the moment, and I'm going to run it for one more day to try and get the fantastic raffle prizes. Um, give you guys more chance to win those raffle prizes. I think every $20 is a ticket into the raffle. This is our progress, $12,669. A really great support from a whole bunch of you. I've not talked about this nearly enough, especially since I've been away. Go and check out my live interview with Bogdan from the Drone Lab, and you can see exactly what it was all about. There are 3 prizes. There's a downed Russian drone. There is a goodie bag full of awesome stuff. There's also an piece of art combining modern and traditional Ukrainian art from a Lviv art house sort of place. So really cool prizes. Please donate and help out. And then we're going to start a campaign to raise money for Car for Ukraine. I want to show you some stuff from there as well from the last campaign, which is phenomenal. But anyway, that's Jigger's Paw. Go to atpgeo.com/donate and you'll get sent to this page and you will be able to donate and be qualify hopefully for a ticket for the raffle. In the meantime, guys, take care and I'll speak to you soon.